Sins of the Sinister? Sins of
Okay,
Sinister?
you're going first. Okay.
Oh, yeah, you usually go first. I'm gonna go first.
No, yeah, you go first.
Okay. Now, you did read this, right?
I did read this.
Okay. All right. So you read this. So you can help me out with this because here's the thing. We're gonna go deep into this book. There's some stuff I saw that I'm just like, wait a minute, that I have a feeling no other comic book reviewer is going to do or even scared to do.
That's why you're doing it, man, because there's a lot of shit out. This is just crazy book.
Now, for those that caught up with the book last time, this was in the Immortal X-Men number 10 when it's revealed that Professor X was secretly a Sinister clone. Now let's go on back and see what's going on with the rest of this book. So, and it actually opens up with the beginning of Jonathan Hickman's X-Men run, where it shows Professor X at first, but now it shows Mr. Sinister. He's like, to me, my me's. And it's just a whole bunch of Cyclops. He has like this weird infatuation with Cyclops for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah. Oh, and the beginning of the book was actually 10 years in the future. This is showing now, basically showing the last issue, what happened when Sinister got absorbed into Krakoa, and they show Professor X, he has a diamond on his head, and then he gets approached by Emma Frost, and it turns out she has a diamond also. She is also Sinister clone. And that's when you see Exodus and Hope show up and see them, they also Sinister clones. So everybody that he killed in the Quiet Council in Immortal X-Men, the last issue, he replaced with clones. So now he controls the Quiet Council. And what they're doing, they're going to pretend like they're normal and put on this dog and pony show, but they're really reacting or acting out Sinister's plan. And what is his plan? He wants to give the mutant gene of immortality to everybody. Humans, mutants, whatever. We're going to get Forge to replace Mr. Sinister because Forge can do it. And Forge would never do something like that. Oh, we'll convince him. Fast forward to a year, we have Ben Urich. What's his name? Ben Urich. Okay. He's meeting with J. Jonah Jameson in some kind of secluded area because he's trying to sell him a story. And he pulls out this needle and he tells J. Jonah, I gotta poke you with this needle to make sure you're you. He's like, no, don't do that. So he stabs him with the needle. And he realized, okay, cool, you're you. So here's the thing. What he's trying to tell him is that this, and I'm gonna just say it, this jam, because I gotta say it. And that's the hidden thing, I think, what they're trying to say in this book that they're trying to keep in there. They're trying to say that Ben Urich is saying that the X-Men basically offered the jam to everybody to be immortal. But in the jam, they slipped something in there. And I'm trying to uncover this conspiracy. And Jay Jones is like, do you have proof? You're like, of course I have proof. And that's when Jay Jones is just like, guess what? You're actually right. But it doesn't matter. So he is a Sinister clone also. He's already been replaced. And he brings in a whole nother Sinister clone. So he tells him, so guess what, Ben? Your last story is going to be right about everything that you're thinking about the jam. But guess what? It won't matter. So he's gone. And we got Forge making some kind of orbital cannon. And what is he doing with this orbital cannon? He's going to kill Krakoa. Boom. Krakoa's dead. We're not really dead, but some kind of drooling vegetable. And Cypher is just like, Krakoa, what happened? And that's when Wolverine, who's also a Sinister clone, kills him because he's the biggest threat to them right now. So he's out of there. And they do not resurrect him. Meanwhile, Emma Frost tells the world, because they gave the humans the jam. Also, they're like, well, Krakoa is dead, and Krakoa had our backup of everybody in there. So even though we have backups of mutants, we can no longer give immortality to humans. Sorry. And guess what? Orcus attacked us, even though they really attacked themselves. They blaming it on Orcus. So we're going to go attack Orcus. And if anybody else wants to help us attack Orcus, feel free to come. And of course they do. And that's when the Avengers help them out attacking Orcus. So Nimrod, the same guy that in pretty much every future has killed the X-Men single-handedly, has to go up against the X-Men, the Avengers, and the Fantastic Four. And that's when Iron Man is saying corny shit to him. And Forge is like, Tony, will you shut the fuck up? We try to plant the virus in him right now and kill him. So they plant the virus in him. He's dead. And the Avengers pretty much take out Orcus. And they're just like, well, what do we do now? Well, we can't save the people that already died, but we can make backups of people that are still here. But the thing is, they don't want to take the jam because they don't trust us. But Avengers, what if you convince them to take it for us? Because they trust you. And the Avengers like, you know what? We'll do it. The Avengers are the first one to take jam. Fast forward a little bit later, and Forge frees Mr. Sinister. He's free now. And he's basically just like, okay, so my plan is in motion. Everybody's doing what they're going to do. Y'all handle it. Bye. And he leaves. And he lets them handle it. So he goes to his Memorial Island because he made an AI backup of Moria McTaggart so he can predict the future and predict how things are going to go. So he just sits there and stays in Moria Island for the rest of the time, and he doesn't go anywhere. So here's the thing about Mr. Sinister. The reason what he's been doing is that anytime they make clones and resurrect people, Mr. Sinister hands them the DNA to the Five to clone everybody. But the thing is, Mr. Sinister has been slipping in tampered DNA of every clone he sent to kind of tamper with them. But the thing is, Hope has subconsciously rewritten everything he did. So that's why none of his clone shit worked before. So he know the only way to really take over, he got to take her out. But if you take her out, other people are going to come for us. You got to take like a bunch of them at one time and replace them all at one time for his plan to really work. So now that Hope has been replaced and Professor X has been replaced, everybody's replaced, he's just chilling. He's going to sit here for the next 5 years and let his plan work out. So while he's doing that, he already predicted that Thanos was coming. So what they did, they mind controlled Juggernaut, shrunk him to the size of a bullet, shot him at Thanos, and blew his brains out. And he flew so fast that Juggernaut actually shot into space and he just left him out there. Meanwhile, Namor been corrupted also. How did he get corrupted? When he had sex with Emma Frost, she killed him in his sleep. That's how. So when Dr. Doom tried to recruit him, he stabbed Dr. Doom because he was really working for Mr. Sinister the whole time. Meanwhile, a Doom bot is really out there saying he's really Doom and he's working with whatever's left of Orcus. The Eternals were killed by Thanos' uncle or granddad. The Fantastic Four were killed by Ben Grimm, who became a Mr. Sinister clone, and he turned everybody else into thing monsters too before he killed them. The Avengers, since they'd already been replaced by Mr. Sinister clones, they assassinated the president. At the time, I guess Joe Biden, maybe somebody else, I don't know, was like that. They assassinated Joe Biden and took over. So the X-Men killed the Avengers, and the X-Men became Earth's mightiest heroes. So now the plan is working. This 5 years later, Storm is just like, okay, here's the thing, y'all. I have a problem with this plan we've been doing so far. It's like really screwed up. And Professor X's like, what's the problem with the plan? You're like, well, for one thing, who the hell is this? This is a Nightcrawler. Where's my friend? What did you do to him? And that's when Mr. Sinister shows up, and she's like, well, I got Nightcrawler right here. His genes went out of control, so I don't know what happened to him. Meanwhile, I replaced him with this clone that just raised his hand anytime I want him to. So I let him do that. But since you don't want that, I'm going to just sit Nightcrawler right here and just let him do what he wants to. And Stormers are like, Mr. Sinister, what the hell are you doing here? Didn't we trap you in bottom of Krakoa like years ago? You're like, yeah, I got out. So, yeah. And here's the thing. The reason Storm didn't get mind control like the rest of them is because she deleted her resurrection protocols. She's like, I don't want to be reborn. When I die, I die. That's it. So her and Magneto did that when they went to Mars. Magneto's dead. He died in the battle with the Eternals. Meanwhile, Storm is still there. And since they can't resurrect her, they can't mind control her. So they try to use Professor X and Emma Frost to just telepathically mind control her. But the thing is, she had already got some kind of safe blocks in her from some mutant from Araco from Mars. So they can't even mind control her. So she just like does it like this typhoon storm and just cuts out of there. She's like, I'm out of here. Y'all gone. And she shows later up in Peru and she's like, okay, if y'all want to fight, let's fight. And then she sees Destiny and Mystique back there. And Storm is like, how did you know I was going to be here? And she's like, oh, you're Destiny. Never mind. Okay. And she's just like, well, what if we team up? And I'm pretty sure this is how we sow the seeds for how Storm becomes the leader of the Brotherhood of Mutants. Because of the X-Men are evil, she's on the other side of them. Meanwhile, Mr. Sinister is just like, well, since Storm cut out of here, it's a seat open for the Quiet Council. I nominate myself as a spot. So he's back on the Quiet Council. Meanwhile, Sebastian Shaw takes over Hell. They make a deal with Hell. And while they take over a deal with Hell, they make a deal with Surtur in Muspelheim. And the X-Men cause Ragnarok. That way, none of the Asgardians as Thor can come after them. Oh, and no more Wanda. Just to be on the safe side. So he remakes the X-Men also, but that's when he starts splicing DA to make them all kind of weird X-Men. But the chemicals he used are so toxic, they poison the eastern seaboard. Oh, and they also blow up Mars just to try to kill Storm, which they don't kill Storm. She gets away anyway. But everybody else on Mars is dead. Meanwhile, you got a Nightcrawler Spider-Man hybrid, and Mr. Sinister's walking around seeing his handiwork just there. And he sees everybody standing in line to take the jam. Meanwhile, Foggy Nelson just like, don't take the jam. There's a chemical plant in Westchester that is poisoning all of us. By the time you get the jam and you become immortal, you're going to die so fast, it's going to have to redo you anyway. And that's when Spider-Man snaps up Foggy Nelson, takes him out of there, and let's go. And Mr. Sinister just tells everybody that, yeah, I'm not even mind controlling everybody. They want to take the to be mind control. And that's why I don't think much of humans. Because they're dumb as hell. So and that's when they have this another meeting there, and they're basically saying that because we blew up Mars, the Shi'ar are coming after us, and other space people are coming after us also to specifically wipe us out. So that's when Mr. Sinister just like he takes a vote and realizing that some of the X-Men that he mind control are not kind of rebelling against him. They're starting to have free will because he gave him too much free will when he cloned them. He's like, well, fuck this. I'm gonna just blow up this world and just reset the timeline to start over again. At least I know what not to do next time. So he goes there. He tries to teleport back to Mirror Island. His teleport machine messed up, so he actually has to physically go there. And when he goes there to his machine that's supposed to reboot the universe, somebody stole it. So he's stuck there in this fucked up timeline. The end. So my question about this book: is this book an anti-jam? That's my question. I think it kind of is. I think it is. Or at least it's asking the question. Because the whole thing is about the X-Men slipping shit in there, which is any conspiracy theory about the anti-jam, the same shit they say. All these people like there. So I'm thinking, I'm not saying that the writer is anti-jam. I'm thinking he's planting some seeds in there in his story. So yeah. But
are you going to continue
ready?
reading
What
this?
would you say what now?
Are you going to continue reading this event?
I think I might. Here's the thing. That's another thing that's reminding me of this book also. This book is giving me a lot of vibes of Age of Apocalypse. It's reminding me of that. That was some shit that actually made me quit reading X-Men comics in the 90s, where, this alternate future that's so fucked up and the mutants got to figure stuff out. I think Mr. Sinister is just stuck in some weird timeline, and that's the timeline he's just stuck in. And, of course, it'll get rebooted and fine, whatever like that. So I'm pretty sure everything that happens in this book will have no repercussions going forward.
Or
on anything
House of M. It's like another
House of M. Same thing. Alternate universe, elsewhere thing. It's that. It's that all over again. And cool, I guess. But I'm not gonna read every book in it. I'll just read some books in it. But I'm curious about the story. I'll stick with it.
Yeah,
I think they're starting to wrap up the whole Kokora thing though.
Yeah, I was a little curious. Like, that's why I read it, and I was like, damn, they're cramming a bunch of shit because I thought this was only going to be like a limited mini series just on Sinister. But then it's a huge event, and it seems like they're going to go. Like, it's going to have all these. It seems like all the X-Men books are going to be about. Yeah, then it would be like Age of Apocalypse, where it's just everything tied into this story.
Right, just one central thing.
And then I got kind of exhausted, like, oh, really?
Well, here's the thing, Eli. Here's the thing. I think the majority of those books are going to be filler.
Yeah,
I think they're going to be just nonsense, just throw away with it like that. I think there will be like this story and like the story at the end. They'll be the main story, but everything else is going to be just filler.
Yeah.
Because also they're saying at the end, because in Hickman's run, they're basically saying like robots from space came down and killed everybody and took over, and basically saying in this storyline that's going to happen also, and that's why we'll go 1,000 years in the future. So,
well, he's kind of like basically kind of like acting. He's kind of like Scarlet Witch, where he took Moria's power of resurrection and then made all these save points in history so he can go back and redo.
That was his plan. Yeah. That was his plan to do.
Yeah. And this carries over from, because I was reading Hellions, and Sinister was like a big part of that Hellions run, and I can see what he's always been planning some shit, and he was doing shady shit even in the Hellions book. So that's why I was intrigued about this story. But if it's gonna be this long, drawn out, year-long event, I don't know. I don't know.
It probably like 3 months. 3 months it'll be over with. So yeah, I don't think it's gonna be a whole thing. But I think that they're about to wrap up this whole Krakoa thing.
And it seemed like they were making reference to the X of Swords and Powers of X or 10 or whatever fucking X of Swords, not X of Swords, House of X.
No, it was 10 of Swords. House of.
No, we're thinking of the sword. That was that tournament, right? The sword.
The tournament, but they call it 10. Yeah,
I'm talking about wasn't it called House of X when Hickman first took over? House of X, Powers of X.
House of X and Powers of X.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
House of X, Powers of 10.
10, Powers of 10. Yeah.
Even though it had an X.
Yeah,
it's a difference.
Because this wasn't this was 10, and in this book, it was like 10 years for Sinister to do all this shit.
Right, because that was his 10-year timeline, you know. And basically he was doing the same thing Moria did.
Yeah.
because he was about to reboot the universe himself before somebody stole the machine. So yeah. Now who stole it? Who knows? Yeah. Tune in to find out. So yeah.